The airlock hissed as it sealed behind them, and the cold blue light of the station flickered across the metal walls. Joran adjusted his pack and looked at the figure beside him. Captain Lyra Kestrel stood tall, her armor gleaming even under the dim lights, each plate reflecting the subtle hum of the station's artificial gravity. They had been through many missions together, but this one felt different. The silence between them was heavy, almost as if the ship itself was aware of the tension building. Joran tried to lighten it. "So, what do you want from me on this one?" he asked with a grin, trying to hide the tightness in his chest. "Really, tell me." She just turned her gaze toward the massive viewport at the end of the corridor, where the cold stars stretched endlessly into the void. "I've always known you like to joke," she said softly, "but jokes won't help us out there." The Drakari fleet was waiting somewhere beyond the nebula, their weapons capable of tearing through the strongest shields humanity had to offer. The Alliance had underestimated the enemy, and now it was up to a small strike team to hold them long enough for the fleet to regroup. Lyra finally turned to face him, and for a moment, the joke felt unnecessary, even childish. "I don't just need you joking at my side, Joran. I need you ready. We can't afford mistakes." Her voice was firm but calm, a mixture of command and trust. It was the kind of tone that inspired loyalty, the kind that made people follow her into fire without hesitation. Joran nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest at her trust. "Then I'll be ready." "You don't even have to ask." Joran's eyes followed every motion, not because he wanted to stare, but because every movement was part of the preparation, part of the transformation from commander to warrior. He had always known her as a fearless leader, but seeing her prepare for battle like this reminded him that her courage wasn't just in words. It was in every action she took. "You always did like showing off," he joked, trying to cut the tension again. Lyra didn't laugh. She shook her head slightly, fastening her gauntlets next. "Not showing off, preparing. Every piece of this suit keeps me alive. Every piece of it protects the people I lead." Her eyes locked on his. "And right now that includes you." He had always known the stakes, but hearing it spoken like that brought it closer, sharper. He had trained for years for moments like this, but the reality of facing the Drakari, creatures whose reputation alone had sent entire human colonies into chaos, was daunting. The galaxy had labeled humanity as fragile, unpredictable, even foolish. Yet here they were, standing on the edge of what could easily be a slaughter, and somehow humanity had sent them to fight with nothing but courage, skill, and trust in one another. Lyra finished adjusting her armor, each plate locking into place with a series of precise clicks and hums. The exosuit was a marvel of engineering, light enough for rapid movement, strong enough to deflect plasma rounds, and sophisticated enough to adapt to changing battlefield conditions. She flexed her fingers within the gauntlets, testing the hydraulics. Every inch of her was ready, every system online, and yet there was no arrogance in her readiness, only resolve. Joran took a step closer, feeling the pulse of anticipation in the air. "You're really not kidding about this mission, are you?" he asked, though the question was almost rhetorical. Lyra shook her head. "No, and you shouldn't either. The Drakari don't fight like us. They don't retreat, they don't negotiate, and they won't give us a second chance if we slip." Her voice softened slightly. "That's why I need you at your best." People who refused to back down, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. The intercom chimed, breaking the quiet. "Captain Kestrel, all teams are in position, awaiting final confirmation to engage." The voice was crisp, mechanical, a reminder of the efficiency expected on a military station. Lyra's gaze flicked to the monitor beside the viewport. "We engage in 5, she said calmly, reading the tactical data scrolling across the screen. "Joran, stay sharp. Remember what we practiced. Trust your instincts and trust me." Humanity had ventured into countless unknowns before, but this was different. The Drakari weren't just an enemy. They were a test of every lesson, every advancement, every ounce of courage humans had built over centuries. Lyra activated her helmet, sealing it with a hiss. The HUD flickered to life, displaying enemy positions, environmental hazards, and tactical overlays. She looked at Joran through the visor, a silent affirmation passing between them. Words were unnecessary, trust was understood. Joran followed suit, the sleek form of his own exosuit locking around him. Sensors hummed, hydraulics activated, and he felt the familiar weight of the suit's responsiveness. He felt alive, ready, part of something bigger than himself. And in that moment, the joke he had made earlier seemed trivial, almost childish. But it also reminded him of what they were fighting for: the human spirit, the ability to face fear with humor, with resolve, and with loyalty. The airlock doors slid open, revealing the void beyond. The Drakari fleet waited, a swarm of alien vessels, dark and menacing, their weapons already charging. But humanity had something the aliens did not: cunning, courage, and unyielding determination. Lyra stepped forward first, her armor reflecting the distant light of nearby stars. "Let's remind them," she said, her voice calm but powerful, "why humans are never easy to defeat." Together, they moved into the unknown, the beginning of a mission that would test every limit of human capability. The tension was thick, the danger real, and the stakes impossibly high, but as always, they had each other, and sometimes that was all it took. As the first shots fired, Joran realized something he had always known deep down. Humanity was stronger than any odds, braver than any enemy, and capable of far more than anyone, even themselves, believed. And with leaders like Lyra, there was no limit to what they could accomplish, even when the galaxy expected them to fail. The battle had begun, and there was no turning back. The first volley of plasma fire lit the darkness of space, streaks of green and blue cutting through the void like deadly ribbons. Joran's heart raced, but he held himself steady, trusting the hydraulics of his suit and the precision of his training. Around him, the other human pilots darted and weaved between enemy fire, their exosuits glowing faintly with shield energy as they moved. The Drakari ships were faster, their formations precise, and for a moment it seemed the legends of their ruthlessness were true. But humanity had something else: unpredictability. Joran pushed his thrusters, weaving through the enemy's ranks in a series of tight, calculated maneuvers. He could feel the vibrations through his suit as his shots hit home, sending a small Drakari fighter tumbling into the void. A thrill of satisfaction surged through him. One down, not many, but enough to prove they were not easy prey. Lyra moved beside him, her movements sharp and efficient. Every step, every adjustment of her suit, every tactical command was executed with precision. She fired, her blasts cutting through the alien shields, and then she was already moving to cover another teammate, her visor displaying threat levels and trajectories in real time. The human squadron was small compared to the Drakari, but their coordination and improvisation allowed them to survive waves of attack that would have obliterated larger fleets. Joran's visor blinked with a warning, an incoming missile from a Drakari frigate, aimed directly at their formation. Reflexively, he rolled, twisting his suit midair, and fired a countercharge. The missile detonated harmlessly a few meters away, sending a shockwave that buffeted the nearby pilots. He landed on the edge of a debris field, scanning quickly for cover. "Nice move," Lyra's voice came through his comms, calm but tinged with admiration. "Keep your eyes open. They're adapting." Communication wasn't just talking, it was timing, coordination, trust. That was humanity's real strength, the ability to adapt, to think creatively under pressure. The Drakari were fast and lethal, but they were predictable in their focus. Humans could improvise, humans could learn mid-battle, humans could fight with heart. The Drakari frigates began to converge, cutting off escape routes and forcing the humans into tighter formations. Joran glanced at the tactical overlay on his visor. The enemy had anticipated their standard maneuvers. They were clever, but not infallible. He quickly relayed a new strategy to the squadron, a sudden change in formation that took advantage of the debris field and gravity fluctuations near a nearby asteroid. "Everyone, split and circle," he instructed, voice steady despite the adrenaline. "Draw them into the field, then converge." Lyra's squad followed him, weaving through the jagged edges of the asteroid's surface. The Drakari, overconfident in their firepower, pursued aggressively. Suddenly, they were trapped. The debris provided cover, slowed their advance, and blocked some of their fire. The humans retaliated, launching a coordinated strike from multiple angles. Explosions blossomed in the void, green plasma disintegrating alien fighters. One Drakari ship collided with a rock and spun helplessly into the darkness. Another fell victim to Lyra's precise shots, her armor gleaming even as she moved with effortless grace. Joran felt a surge of pride. Humanity was holding its own, and more than that, they were dominating small skirmishes despite being outnumbered. But there was no time to celebrate. Another volley came, larger and faster this time. One of the newer human pilots, a rookie named Kira, froze for a moment under the pressure. Joran saw her struggling and veered toward her, placing himself between her and the incoming fire. He adjusted his shields, taking the brunt of the blast, feeling the suit shudder under the force. Sparks flickered across his HUD, but the armor held. "Focus, Kira, trust your instincts." Joran shouted, keeping his own fear in check. She nodded, her hands shaking as she aimed and fired. The shots hit their target, sending a Drakari fighter spinning away. Lyra's voice came through again, calm but commanding. Good, keep moving. Don't let them predict your next step. Remember, we're human. We survive because we think differently. They could not match the Drakari in brute speed, but in ingenuity, in courage, and in trust, humans were unstoppable. He glanced at Lyra, who was moving with uncanny speed and precision. Her visor displayed multiple threat indicators, and yet she navigated through the chaos effortlessly. He wondered if anyone else could command such control under fire. She was more than a commander. She was a symbol, a reminder that human determination could shine even in the darkest corners of space. The squadron regrouped behind a large chunk of debris, breathing hard through their suits' life support systems. The Drakari were relentless, but the humans had gained the advantage for now. Joran's HUD displayed enemy numbers dropping, small victories stacking up. Every pilot, every shot, every maneuver mattered. Lyra took a moment to assess the battlefield, her HUD highlighting the weaknesses in the Drakari formation. We hit their command frigate next, she said, her voice steady. Disrupt their coordination, that's our best chance. It wasn't humor. It was reassurance, trust, and challenge all at once. She trusted him, and that trust was a weapon just as potent as any plasma cannon. They moved in unison, human ingenuity against alien precision. Joran found himself anticipating Lyra's every move, covering her flanks, taking shots only when necessary. It wasn't reckless bravado, it was strategy, honed through training, trust, and instinct. The Drakari had faced countless species, but they had never faced humans like this. When the command frigate came into view, larger and more imposing than any ship Joran had ever seen, he felt a mixture of awe and determination. The Drakari were formidable, but so were humans when driven by survival and ingenuity. Lyra adjusted her targeting system, locking onto critical points. Hit the engines first, she instructed. Disable mobility, then take out their weapon systems. Precision, not power, don't waste shots. His hands moved instinctively, adjusting aim, timing shots to avoid counterfire. 1, 2, 3 precise hits struck the engines, and the massive ship wobbled, its trajectory destabilized. The Drakari crew scrambled to adjust, but the damage had been done. Lyra and the rest of the squadron pressed the attack, exploiting the weakness. Plasma blasts ripped through the frigate's shields, and sparks of energy flared across its surface. Joran marveled at how humans, so often underestimated, could take on a foe so much larger, so much more powerful, and still succeed through coordination, courage, and clever thinking. A sudden jolt hit Joran's suit as debris from the frigate's damaged engines collided with him. He twisted midair, firing at approaching enemy fighters, feeling the suit's hydraulics respond instantly. Each movement was fluid, precise. He was not just surviving, he was dominating in his own way. Lyra's voice came through, sharp and commanding. Joran, Kira, flank the left side. Take out the secondary weapons. Everyone else cover. Joran and Kira moved together, their movements synchronized. Joran's confidence in her grew as she adapted quickly, firing with precision despite her earlier hesitation. Together, they disabled the secondary weapons, tipping the balance further in humanity's favor. As the command frigate slowed, vulnerable, Lyra made the final move. With a series of quick calculations, she fired a concentrated shot at the core, bypassing shields and armor. The explosion was massive, lighting up the void with green and gold fire. The Drakari frigate shuddered, sparks and debris drifting away into space. The squadron regrouped, panting through their suit systems, but exhilaration replaced fear. Against overwhelming odds, humanity had not only survived, they had struck a decisive blow. The Drakari would remember this engagement, and they would underestimate humans no longer. Lyra looked at Joran, her visor reflecting the glow of the destroyed frigate. "You see why I needed you?" she asked, calm but satisfied. Joran nodded, a grin breaking through his own visor. "I do. And I'd follow you anywhere." The Drakari fleet was still out there, still dangerous, but for the first time he felt a surge of hope. Humans were underestimated, yes, but perhaps that was their greatest strength. They fought not just with weapons, but with heart, with creativity, and with an unshakable will to survive. The void outside was calm again, the echoes of battle fading. But within the human squadron, a new confidence had been born. They had faced death and come out alive. They had faced impossible odds and proved that humanity was never predictable, never weak, and never to be counted out. And as Joran looked at Lyra, standing tall among the wreckage of enemy ships. He realized that their greatest victories were not measured in destroyed vessels, but in trust, in courage, and in the unyielding strength of the human spirit. The debris from the destroyed Drakari frigate drifted lazily through the void, glinting under the distant starlight. The human squadron had won the first skirmish, but Joran knew better than to celebrate. The Drakari were clever, relentless, and far from defeated. This victory was only a brief reprieve, a chance to catch their breath before the real fight began. Lyra floated beside him, her armor lightly scorched but intact, the faint hum of its shields echoing through the cabin. Her visor displayed tactical readings. The Drakari fleet was reorganizing, regrouping into a tighter formation, their focus now on isolating the humans from reinforcements. "They're adapting," she said calmly, her voice steady despite the looming threat. "They're learning from our moves." "That's exactly what I expected." They would anticipate human creativity, and if humans were not ready, this next encounter could be deadly. "Then we need a new strategy," Joran said, fingers brushing over the suit's controls. "We can't just repeat the same moves, they'll catch us." And thinking differently isn't just improvisation. It's coordination, courage, and boldness. That was what had allowed them to survive countless battles across the galaxy, and it was what would carry them now. The fleet ahead suddenly shifted, moving in tighter formations as if attempting to encircle the human squadron. Joran's HUD blinked with incoming fire warnings, small plasma bolts streaking toward them, faster and more numerous than before. "Here they come," he muttered, tightening his grip on the controls. Lyra activated her thrusters, moving to intercept a Drakari fighter that had broken away from the main formation. Her movements were fluid, precise, almost graceful despite the chaos. Joran followed her lead, coordinating his maneuvers with hers in perfect sync. They were a team honed by experience, and every instinct, every decision was designed to survive and succeed. The first volley struck, and the void erupted in flashes of green and blue. Joran twisted his suit, narrowly avoiding a bolt that would have torn through his armor. He fired, hitting the alien craft squarely, watching it tumble helplessly into the distance. "Good shot," Lyra said over the comm, her voice calm but firm. "But there are more, always more." And humanity had never failed when they relied on those strengths. He glanced at Kira, the rookie who had struggled in the first battle but was now firing with increasing confidence. She was holding her own, dodging plasma bolts and targeting enemy ships with a skill that grew by the second. Joran felt a surge of pride. Humans might be underestimated, but they thrived under pressure, learning and adapting faster than anyone or anything expected. "Lyra, the fleet's shifting again," Joran said, pointing toward a new cluster of enemy vessels converging from the right. "They're trying to split us." "We'll use that." She tapped her gauntlet, sending commands to the squadron. "Split into 3 teams, draw them into a trap. Remember, humans survive by being unpredictable." The enemy, expecting a straightforward engagement, was caught off guard. "Now!" Lyra's voice came through, crisp and commanding. The other human teams struck simultaneously from multiple angles, converging on the Drakari ships that had been drawn into the trap. Plasma bolts tore through shields, and several enemy fighters were disabled in moments. Joran felt the thrill of success but knew better than to relax. The Drakari adapted quickly, their remaining ships coordinating to counter the human attack. One massive cruiser moved toward them, weapons charging and targeting Joran's squadron with deadly accuracy. "Stay calm," Lyra said, voice steady even as alarms blared across their HUDs. "Use the terrain, outthink them. We survive by being smarter, faster, and braver." Beside him, Lyra maneuvered with equal skill, taking out smaller enemy ships while keeping the larger cruiser at bay. Her movements were a dance of strategy and instinct, a reminder of why she was humanity's greatest leader. Joran felt a rush of admiration. She was not just brave, she was brilliant, and she inspired others to match her courage. The battle raged for what felt like hours, though only minutes had passed. Every human pilot pushed themselves to the limit, adapting on the fly, coordinating attacks, and protecting one another. The Drakari were relentless, but for every ship they destroyed, humans found a new way to strike back. Joran found himself thinking about why humanity survived when so many others fell. It wasn't just courage or skill, it was something deeper. Humans refused to be predictable. Humans refused to give up. And humans had each other, trust-forming bonds stronger than any shield or weapon. That was what allowed them to face impossible odds and emerge victorious time and again. The rookie, Kira, found herself cornered by two enemy fighters. She froze for a moment, panic flashing in her visor. Joran didn't hesitate. He veered toward her, placing himself between her and the attackers. He fired with precision, taking out one of the ships, and then used the suit's thrusters to push the second one off course. "Thanks," she breathed, still shaken but smiling through her visor. I didn't think I could." "You just needed someone to trust you. That's how we win, by trusting each other, by acting together." The massive vessel shuddered under the concentrated fire, sparks flying from damaged systems. The Drakari crew scrambled, but their coordination faltered under the relentless human assault. "Keep pushing," Lyra commanded. "Don't let them regroup." His shots struck true, causing a chain reaction that sent sparks and explosions across the cruiser's hull. The alien vessel tilted, struggling to maintain control, and then, slowly, began to drift helplessly. The squadron regrouped, panting and exhausted, but exhilaration replaced fear. They had struck a major blow, demonstrating once again that humans were not to be underestimated. The Drakari fleet was still formidable, but for the first time Joran felt a surge of confidence. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and teamwork could turn even the direst situation into an advantage. Lyra looked at him through the visor, her eyes reflecting both relief and pride. "You see why I trusted you?" she asked. Joran nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "I see. And I'll follow you anywhere." As the squadron regrouped among the drifting debris and damaged ships, Joran realized something essential. Humanity's strength was not in technology alone. It was in trust, ingenuity, and courage. It was in the willingness to face impossible odds and refuse to give up. And it was in leaders like Lyra who inspired others to do the same. The void outside remained quiet for a moment, the echoes of battle fading into distant starshin. But within the human squadron, a quiet determination had been born. They would face the Drakari again, stronger and smarter. They would survive. They would prevail. Because that was what humans did. They endured, they adapted, and they never, ever gave up. And as Joran watched Lyra float among the wreckage of the enemy ships, he knew one thing with certainty. Whatever challenges awaited them, humanity would face them together, and nothing could break their spirit. The void was quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Joran floated among the drifting debris, his suit humming with energy and tension. The Drakari fleet had scattered after the loss of their command cruiser, but that was only temporary. Lyra's eyes scanned the tactical overlays, noting the positions of the remaining enemy vessels. There were still dozens of fighters and frigates moving to regroup, their weapons systems charging with deadly precision. "This isn't over," she said, her voice steady, commanding. "They've lost a leader, but they're still dangerous. We have one chance to finish this before reinforcements arrive. One chance to show them what humans are capable of." But this was the moment that would test every lesson, every skill, and every ounce of courage they had. "Let's make it count," he said, determination in his voice. Lyra nodded, and without another word, she activated the thrusters, propelling herself and her squadron forward. The remaining Drakari ships had formed a crescent, attempting to trap them between two wings of fighters and a hidden dreadnought lurking behind the asteroids. But humans thrived in chaos, and Lyra knew exactly how to turn this situation to their advantage. "Split into 3 teams," she commanded over the comms. "Team 1, distract the left wing. Team 2, take the right. Team 3, Joran, Kira, and I, hit the center and go straight for the dreadnought." They had a plan, and humans thrived when they executed a plan with courage and creativity. The squads moved into position, weaving through asteroid debris, firing bursts to draw the Drakari fighters out of formation. Plasma bolts sizzled past Joran, narrowly missing him as he adjusted his trajectory. He returned fire, targeting weak points in the alien hulls. Kira flanked him, her movements now fluid and confident. She had grown immensely over the past battles, her skills sharpened by the fires of combat. "I never imagined I'd be doing this," she said through the comms, her voice trembling with excitement rather than fear. "But it feels amazing." That's because humans never give up, even when everything seems impossible. Joran followed, their synchronization almost instinctive. As they neared the dreadnought, its massive weapons arrays powered up, sending shockwaves through space. One beam hit a nearby asteroid, shattering it into fragments that drifted toward the humans. Joran activated his suit's thrusters, dodging the debris while returning fire at smaller guns on the dreadnought. Lyra's voice cut through the tension. "Aim for the shield generators, disable their defense, and the dreadnought becomes vulnerable. Move fast, stay coordinated. The enemy crew scrambled, trying to compensate, but Lyra pressed the advantage. Good, she said. Keep pushing, we're not done yet. Every movement was deliberate, every decision calculated. Humans had survived countless battles because they could think faster, react better, and trust each other implicitly. Lyra moved beside him, firing at a turret that threatened to take out Kira. Stay sharp, she shouted. We take them down and the rest of the fleet will scatter. The dreadnought's shields flickered again, the generators sparking under continuous fire. He aimed at another weak point, his shots tearing through the armor and causing an internal explosion that shook the massive ship. Pieces of debris drifted around them, but the humans held formation, relentless in their assault. Kira grinned behind her visor. We're doing it. Look at it burned. Lyra's voice cut through the comms again, calm and commanding. Final push, target the core, this ends now. Sparks flew and the core began to overheat. Almost there, Lyra shouted. Keep firing. The explosion that followed was immense, lighting up the void with a green-gold fire. Debris scattered in every direction, drifting slowly into the endless dark of space. The Drakari command was destroyed, their fleet thrown into chaos. The human squadron regrouped, panting through their suits' life support systems, but exhilaration replaced fear. They had done it. Against overwhelming odds, they had faced the impossible and prevailed. The Drakari would remember humanity's strength now, and they would never underestimate them again. Joran floated beside Lyra, watching the debris drift away. Her visor reflected the light of the exploding dreadnought, but her expression remained calm. You see, she said quietly, this is what humans are capable of. Courage, ingenuity, and trust. That's why we survive when others fail. That's how humans win. Joran's thoughts turned to the people back on human colonies, to every scientist, engineer, and soldier who had made this possible. This victory was theirs too. Humanity's strength was not just in those who fought, but in every person who refused to give up, who kept creating, building, and believing that they could survive. Lyra activated the comms again, her voice steady and commanding. All teams return to formation, will report success and regroup. Humanity has proven its strength today, but the galaxy is vast, and challenges remain. Humanity's story was one of resilience, creativity, and courage, and they had added another chapter today. As the squadron moved back toward the human fleet, Joran felt a deep sense of belonging. This was why humans survived, why they thrived against enemies that seemed invincible. It was courage, ingenuity, trust. And most of all, it was heart, the unyielding human spirit that refused to back down, refused to surrender, and refused to be underestimated. The void outside was calm again, the echoes of battle fading into distant starlight. But within the human squadron, a quiet pride remained. They had faced the impossible and proven that humanity could rise above any threat. They had shown that courage, teamwork, and ingenuity were more powerful than fear, and that no matter the odds, humans could endure. Joran looked at Lyra one last time as they approached the fleet. You were right, he said quietly. Humans are stronger than anyone thinks. Because that is what humanity does. Today had been a reminder that courage, ingenuity, and heart could conquer even the greatest of threats. And Joran knew, as he floated beside his comrades, that humanity's journey was far from over. They had faced the impossible. They had survived. And they would continue to rise, stronger, smarter, and braver than ever. The void was quiet now, the chaos of battle fading into distant starshine. Debris from the destroyed Drakari ships floated lazily, a silent reminder of what humanity had endured and accomplished. The human squadron regrouped near their fleet, engines humming and shields stabilizing. Every pilot wore the marks of their battle, scorched armor, flickering HUDs, and the faint tremor of adrenaline still coursing through their suits. But the tension had eased, replaced by a hard-earned pride. Joran floated beside Lyra, who surveyed the scene with calm intensity. Her armor bore scratches and burn marks, but the suit held firm. The victory had been hard-won, but humanity had proven something essential, not just to the Drakari, but to themselves. They had survived impossible odds. They had prevailed against a foe whose reputation alone struck fear across the galaxy. Lyra's voice came through the comms, clear and commanding. All teams maintain formation, conduct damage assessments, and prepare for extraction. This is a victory, but vigilance remains necessary. Even Kira, the rookie who had struggled at first, now moved confidently, adjusting her suit and checking her weapons. She caught Joran's eye and gave a small nod, the silent acknowledgement of shared triumph. He let out a long breath, letting the weight of the battle settle. Humanity had faced the Drakari fleet and emerged victorious, not because they were stronger in technology, but because they were smarter, braver, and more united than anyone expected. That had always been their advantage, and it had never failed them. The fleet's communications hub lit up, with incoming messages from command and other colonies. Reports of Drakari losses, confirmations of human survival, and commendations for bravery filled the network. Lyra listened carefully, her mind calculating the implications. "The Drakari will regroup," she said, "but today we've shown them that humans are not prey. They are a force to be respected." Every piece of shattered ship, every scorched asteroid told the story of human resilience. They had turned a desperate situation into a triumph. They had survived where others might have perished. "Captain," Joran said quietly, "do you think this changes how the galaxy sees us?" For centuries, humans were underestimated. Others saw us as weak, unpredictable, even foolish. But those who fight alongside us, or against us, now know that we endure, we adapt. We fight with courage and ingenuity that no one can predict, and that is what makes humanity strong. Every pilot, every team member, we all did this together. Joran took a moment to observe the human ships, all battered yet resilient, their lights flickering like beacons in the void. They were survivors, fighters, and innovators, proof that human will could shape outcomes even in the deadliest corners of the galaxy. As they approached the fleet, the human command ship sent a message to all pilots. "Congratulations to all units. Today you have not only survived but proven that humanity will not be underestimated. Return to base for debrief and rest. Well done." Humanity was capable of facing any challenge and emerging stronger. Lyra adjusted her helmet, turning toward Joran. "You've done well today," she said. "All of you have. This is what it means to be human, not just to fight, but to fight with purpose, intelligence, and heart. Never forget that. And I'll keep proving it every chance I get." Today was a reminder of that. He looked out the viewport, watching the stars stretch into infinity. The Drakari had been beaten back for now, and humanity had emerged stronger than anyone could have predicted. But beyond that, Joran felt something deeper. The unshakable truth that humanity's strength was not just in weapons or tactics, but in spirit. Lyra approached, her armor now cleaned and repaired, though faint burn marks remained as a reminder of the trials they had faced. "You understand now, don't you?" she asked quietly, her voice almost reflective. "It's not just about fighting. It's about proving to the galaxy and to ourselves that humans are capable of anything. And I know we'll face more challenges. But today, we've proven that humanity can overcome even the impossible. And we do it together." Joran took a deep breath and let himself relax for the first time in hours. The battle was over, the threat diminished, and for now they had earned this moment of peace. But even as he allowed himself to feel pride and relief, he knew that humanity's journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and challenges, but humans had proven time and again that they could face the impossible and survive. That strength, that ingenuity, and that courage were not accidents. They were the essence of humanity itself. Lyra moved to the squadron, speaking quietly but firmly to each pilot. "Remember this. Remember how you felt today. Remember how humans can rise to any challenge. Carry this courage, this ingenuity, this teamwork into every mission. Humanity is unstoppable when we act together." As the fleet prepared to return to base, Joran allowed himself a final glance at the drifting remnants of the Drakari ships. They were defeated, at least for now, and humanity had survived against overwhelming odds. But more importantly, they had proven their greatest strength, the unyielding human spirit. Kira floated beside him, smiling despite the fatigue in her movements. "I think I understand now. Humans aren't just lucky, we're clever, brave, and determined, and we fight for each other. Remember this day." The stars stretched endlessly before them, indifferent to their struggles, but humanity had carved its place among them. Today had been a reminder. They survived because they were humans. They thrived because they were humans, and nothing in the galaxy could ever take that away. Joran looked at Lyra once more, her armor gleaming under the distant starlight. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For leading us, for trusting us, for showing us what humans can do." Joran allowed himself to relax even just a little, knowing that they had survived, succeeded, and grown stronger together. And as the stars streamed past, he realized one undeniable truth: humanity was unstoppable. No matter the odds, no matter the enemy, no matter the darkness ahead, humans would endure, adapt, and rise. Because that was their nature. That was their strength. That was what made humanity extraordinary. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity was here. Humanity would fight, and humanity would prevail. And Joran, alongside his fellow pilots, knew one thing for certain. They had only just begun.